don't see anybody else walking in from the parking lot, and this looks like about the right number of people, so thank you all for coming. My name's Bob Lee. I'm the emergency manager and a couple of other jobs too. In case someone needs to use the restroom, it's out that door and then to the right. And in case of an emergency, the exit is here and then back out the front door the way you came in, or out that door there. And we have an fire extinguisher here, and it's for decoration. Don't even think about it, just get out. And Kevin, you'd like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Isn't he the right emergency manager person?
Exit's over here. Exit's over there.
He's like a flight attendant.
Tough act to follow.
Yeah, exactly. Good evening. My name is Kevin Albert. I'm the Community Resource Officer for the Paradise Valley Police Department. I think most of you know me. I've been to some of your homes because you've invited me for coffee. We've talked about your home safety, your home security, how to keep yourself safe. If you haven't invited me yet, shame on you. Please invite me. I know it's 128 degrees outside. I still drink coffee. My business card is on the table over there. Please grab it. Seriously, I'll come to your house. We'll talk about how to keep yourself safe, how to make your home safer. Just little tips that we know what the bad guys are looking for when they're driving up and down side streets and all of that. Why they would pick your home. We're going to try to make sure that they don't pick your home. So there's some information on the table. Please grab it. I'd be more than happy to come to your home. So I don't want to waste any more of your time. Tonight's presenter is Kirsten Sorensen. She's with Maricopa County Emergency Management Center. Is that right?
Yes.
Close enough. Okay, perfect. So I'll turn it over to her, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you.
Right. Excellent. Thank you. So obviously we're here today to talk about Paradise Valley's preparedness and what y'all can do to empower yourselves to be ready for disasters, right? So if that's not the kind of information you're looking for, you're in the wrong spot. So as they said earlier, my name is Kirsten Sorensen. I am the whole community planner for Maricopa County Emergency Management Division out of Maricopa County. So I'm stationed on the same base that the National Guard is stationed at, over on McDowell and 52nd Street. And I've been with them about 4 months. Previous to Maricopa County, I worked for the American Red Cross, where I did national disaster responses. So I think in total I've been on about 7 national disasters, wildfire, flood, mostly flood in Texas. So Texas is highly prone to flood, as you all know from the news. So as we get started, we've already been through the housekeeping items. Does everyone remember where the restrooms and exits are? This is important. In emergency management, this is important. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, well, I've done my introduction. Unfortunately, there's so many of us here in the room. I would prefer not to do a roundabout because I think it'll waste some of your valuable time. We'll talk about the role of emergency management and what that encompasses. A lot of people have no idea why Bob's job exists. So we want to show you why. We want to talk about the disasters most common in Paradise Valley, and really the metro area. So how to prepare yourself for those hazards, responding to those disasters, and how to recover from them. And then I'll give you some really great resources too that you can just have for free, on top of all the flyers that we've already provided you, right? All right, so I've got a short little video because I think they do a better job at explaining it than I do. So we'll go ahead and play that. What did I do? I know. Tragedy. I hate these remotes. Right.
Not all disasters are alike. They can be viewed on a spectrum, from the simplest accident to a major disaster. Most of these emergencies don't need to be managed. They're handled by police officers, firefighters, EMTs, and other responders as routine matters. So what happened?
I didn't do it.
Bill Gates' fault.
Not all disasters are alike. They can be viewed on a spectrum, from the simplest accident to a major disaster. Most of these emergencies don't need to be managed. They're handled by police officers, firefighters, EMTs, and other responders as routine matters. So what
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and move on. So emergency management, we are the folks that bring together other departments and organizations and we make them communicate. So during a large-scale disaster, and we're talking something bigger than your personal house fire. We're saying an apartment complex has caught on fire. There's 100 apartments affected, and there's a high probability it's going to move to another building and injure that building as well. So the emergency managers all get in a room, and we basically start trying to pull resources. So this room is called the Emergency Operations Center. In that room, all parties that are affected, so an example of that could be during a flooding incident, at Maricopa County, we always invite Maricopa County Flood Control District to be part of our Emergency Operations Center. And that's because they know where the water's gonna go, right? So they should be in the room telling us how to react to that. And telling us, you know, what resources we may or may not need. So other people that are in the room are Public Health Department, Department of Transportation, anyone else that you can really think of that would be a stakeholder in that kind of a response. Okay, so if it's a wildland fire, we're going to have most likely an incident commander for that wildland fire in the EOC as well. Okay, so the disasters that are local to Paradise Valley, flooding. This happened, I'm told, 2 years ago. We had about 100 homes locally that were affected. We'll go through each one of these disasters in more detail, how to prepare for, how to respond to, and then what to do after that. I've also included a little flyer on the tables talking about your insurance companies and what to do for flooding events specific to that. So extreme heat, we all know that's a huge issue right now. We've been in an excessive heat warning for about a week. Thunderstorms and lightning, we have warnings for that this weekend and tonight, I believe. And then dust storms. A lot of folks, you know, Arizona is a place that people love to visit. So we have a lot of issues with dust storms because people don't know how to react. So we'll go through that as well. What I want to do before I start talking about all the disasters is kind of go through how you're notified of these things, right? So how can you get the information that you need to move forward? So you have two really great utility companies here locally. I believe APS is your primary, is that right? Okay, so APS and SRP both have what they call outage maps. So dust storms and excessive heat cause power outages all the time, right? So you can go to these websites and find out if SRP or APS are already working on the outage in your area, or if there's a planned outage. That's a big one too. Wow. Okay, so the second resource is similar to a reverse 911 phone call. So who knows what I mean when I say reverse 911? Okay, so it's exactly reverse 911. Dispatch starts calling you and saying there's an incident in your area, you know, if there is an evacuation notice issued, go to this location, kind of thing. We'll see if we can get this to play. If not, it's also a handout that's titled Maricopa 911.
So while she's looking that up, is anybody here signed up for Code Red? Okay, that is the reverse 911. So we call you to let you know what's going on. So if you remember, for those who signed up in November when Tatum and Lincoln was closed because of the water main break, the entire intersection was closed for 3 days, we called you to tell you what's going on. So instead of you calling 911, we call you to let you know. A missing child, for example, walks out of the front door, we would call you and we would say within, let's say, a mile radius from your house, we'll call everybody in that area saying we're looking for a 5-year-old wearing pajamas, you know, all of this. So similar, but this is coming, the code red is coming from the town. So if you don't have that, go to our website and you can sign up from there. Same thing, it's on my card, it's on the flyer that's at the front door.
What percentage of households are signed up for that?
We have 7,700 ways to contact people between on cell phone and business.
That is a good point too. That your cell phone is the best thing to sign up for these systems because you're not always home, right? So, and a lot of people don't even have landlines anymore. So, and if you can't get home to answer the phone, you're not going to know what's coming in.
So if you have a power failure, your home phone might not work.
Correct.
September 9th, 2008 was a bright autumn day in Scottsdale. Marge Kavanaugh was just getting ready to head out of her home on East Bonnie Rose Avenue to do some yard work when the phone rang.
They said this was a 9/11 alert, and the stay inside that there was a bee infestation, I believe they said, in your neighborhood, and we had you stay inside till you had further notice it was okay to come out. So I changed my plans and worked in the yard that day in a hurry.
Marge's home was one of approximately 400 called that day through the Community Emergency Notification System, or SENS. SENS is a type of reverse 911 that enables local police and fire departments in the valley to quickly warn residents when their lives or homes.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions on how those two systems work? The Code Red and the SENS? All right. So they really are, they are great because you don't always have to notify everyone in my case, in the county of an incident. You can really target a certain population. Okay, so our first emergency disaster incident that could occur is flooding, and that's usually caused here in Arizona by excessive rainfall. Typically we don't have dams break or structures fail because we don't get enough of that rain. So one thing we do have is flash flooding, and that is actually what flood control says is just, you know, a rushing of water. It's coming from, you know, the top of Camelback, the top of Twin Peaks, and it's coming down at a rapid rate. Flash flooding is a major cause for a lot of deaths within the county because people are not prepared and they're not aware of their surroundings and what's going on. Okay, so the things for you to really pay attention to: a flood watch and a flood warning, or flash flood watch and a flash flood warning. Can anyone tell me the difference between a watch and a warning? Louder.
Happen, and a warning is if anything is happening.
Right. So a watch is, you know, it's raining and this could happen. There's a probability this could happen. The National Weather Service is most likely going to issue that. A flood warning is, flooding is imminent. It's going to happen and you need to be aware of your surroundings. So during a flood warning, that can come from a multitude of areas. So it can come from the SENS, it can come from Code Red, depending on how bad it is, and it can come from the National Weather Service as well. So there's no difference between a flood watch and a flash flood watch. It's all going to be issued kind of in the same manner, right? So I don't want to dive too deep into getting your house ready for a flood because there's permits that are involved, and by no means am I an expert. So what I did is I found a great reference for you, and it's FEMA.gov, and it's the homeowner's guide to retrofitting your home, 6 ways to protect your house against flooding, right? So make sure that when you're on this website, if you're doing any major structural damage or changes, that you're talking to the local planning department, because we don't want you to do changes and then have it route to somewhere and an even bigger issue occurs, right? Okay, so during a flood, what do you do, right? So some things to keep in mind. 6 inches of water can knock you off your feet. If, you know, I don't care who you are. It'll take you down and it will wash you away. 1 foot of water can lift and carry your vehicle. So, and that includes sport trucks and utility vehicles, right? So has anyone ever driven through water? Moving water? Yeah, I've done it. I've done it. I thought I was cool and I could do it. No, don't do it. Don't do it. Because here in Arizona, there's actually a stupid motorist law. That's what it's called. If you drive around barricades, or if you start driving your car through a massive puddle that's clearly hazardous, your insurance company has decided to not pay for any of those damages. And the state, county, and city will not know to look for you because they've already barricaded that area off. They've secured it in a way, okay? So don't drive around barricades. If flood waters rise to your car, evacuate immediately. This may include swimming, so I highly suggest swimming classes. Okay, so after a flood occurs, it's important to recognize that the danger is most likely during this period. Debris has moved, roads have been shifted, a lot of the places that are familiar to you have probably changed, and there could be critters running around, right? So snakes, scorpions. Scorpions are pretty big here in Paradise Valley, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just be leery of that, and use extreme caution when you're entering buildings. There's a lot of structural damage that can occur that people don't see right off the bat. Okay. You also need to try and take care of yourself. So stay healthy. Make sure you're drinking lots of clean water. Avoid the floodwaters, and service any damaged septic tanks. That's also a big one, because pipes crack, and water is released into floodwaters. Sewage is released into floodwaters. So clean and disinfect everything that got wet. You know, if you've got a lawn chair outside, I think a good hose down is probably sufficient. I wouldn't get too carried away with that. So cleaning up. Make sure that your electricity is not on if your house is flooded, because electrical currents travel through water, right? A lot of this you already know, and you already know how to get ready for a disaster. It's just something that you need to be cognizant of when you're trying to walk through these steps, right? Contact your insurance company. Listen to the radio for information on assistance from government and nonprofits. So if the damage is bad enough, there are agencies that will come and step up to assist in either property damage or assistance with, you know, cleaning your house out. There's also monetary funds that can be given out for damage depending on your situation. And there are countless government entities and nonprofits that will assist you with that. Red Cross is one of them, Salvation Army is one of them, Southern Baptist is one, and then, you know, of course, FEMA. Everyone knows FEMA. If the damage is great enough, there will be a declaration, and hopefully FEMA comes in and SBA loans are available. If this one's huge. When I was in Texas, we had massive problems with scammers saying that if you pay them upfront in cash, they'll help you clean up your yard and redo your landscaping or help you muck out your house. Be aware of contractors that are out there. There are several that, even if they're good contractors, will take advantage. So one way to work through that is to use references on government sites. Those folks have been cleared and work with the government entities pretty often. So, all right, our second disaster that can happen is excessive heat. That's something we're in right now. So a lot of people don't realize how bad the heat is in Arizona, okay? It does not discriminate against anyone. So this is what Maricopa County Department of Health Services has released in the last year. So in 2012, there was a huge peak in deaths due to heat. We had 110 within the county. And in 2013, that drastically was reduced. So one thing that I want to point out is these deaths were not directly related to any one social group. So, you know, the first thing that I thought of was, you know, it's folks that don't have access to shelter. It's, you know, that's what it's gotta be. No, it's stranded motorists. It's the elderly having their power go out and not knowing what to do. It's young kids not knowing how to handle the heat and they're outside playing sports. So it's, it does not discriminate. So, hydrate. Okay, so we know watches and warnings, right? So now with excessive heat, you will get a watch and a warning issued as well. These come from the National Weather Service. I believe Flood Control of Maricopa County has also started issuing these in the same capacity. So excessive heat watches. These are issued when the risk of heat is increased, but the occurrence and timing is still uncertain. So we know that there's going to be, you know, a heat wave, if you will, but we don't know when it's going to hit, but we think maybe it's the weekend. So that'll be issued. An excessive heat warning comes out 12 hours prior to the onset of extreme heat. So in Arizona, this number was actually just changed. It's not 105 anymore, it's 108, which is still toasty, right? And the biggest trick with these two, the watch and the warning with heat, is that nighttime temperatures do not go below 80 degrees. So that's, you know, you can get through a hot day, but when you have a hot evening with no power, that's when people's bodies start shutting down. Okay, dust storms, right? What do you do if you're driving on the freeway and you see brake lights ahead of you and it looks as though the traffic stopped and there's a dust storm coming? You nailed it. Okay, so you pull off the freeway. This I had to learn this the hard way because I got rear-ended when I first moved to Arizona because I just stopped in a dust storm off to the side of the road, brake lights on. Don't do that. You need to pull off to the side of the road, take your foot off the brake, and engage your parking brake. I would even recommend just shutting your car off because you're going to get that dust into the vents anyway. So the major issue with dust storms is that it's what you can't see, right? So if you're on the freeway or doing 80 miles an hour, you don't know what's in front of you and you don't know what's behind you. So that's really where the hazard is. You could have a downed tree in front of you and not have any clue. Another video. Let's see if it works. So this one's going to walk you through preparing yourself for those 72 hours before first responders or emergency management or other agencies can come and get you more assistance.
Well, regardless of where you live, a visit from disaster is inevitable. And much like a visit from any unwanted house guest, you never know when he's going to show up or how long he's going to stay. And pretending to not be at home might work well for some guests, but disaster? Well, he's a little more wily. So the big question you need to ask yourself before he does show up is, should I stay or should I go? In the case of severe weather, well, we all know to take shelter. But what about a huge chemical spill? Or radiation exposure? You need to know the details of where and how to shelter in place, and you need to learn about it now. Because when disaster is already trying to get in, it's too late. And what about those other mass disasters with the need to evacuate? If disaster's approaching, there won't be time to pull out the map and figure it out. You should have a plan in place. Where to go, how to get there, who to contact, and what to take, and how to secure your home. You should also have an emergency kit ready to grab and go. Remember, some road-based evacuation routes can be affected by disasters. So make sure you have a plan B and a plan C. And stay informed. Your smartphone can be a good place to start, but without power, cell phone coverage, or internet access, a NOAA All Hazards radio might be the smarter choice. You know, it sounds like a lot, and it is. So take the time now. Because when disaster gets here, you might have 30 minutes, or you might have 30